Good deal.
All right. So let's get going, Hunter.
Let's do
First,
it.
it is just great to have you here today to talk about building wealth through real estate. You
Pleasure to
are
be
my
here.
go-to. All
I'm
of my
excited.
clients, I'm like, could you just go talk to Hunter
Just have a
before?
conversation with them. You ain't got to do nothing besides have a conversation. Let them educate you a little bit.
Yeah, and I love that you're always willing to do that and you're so
Yeah.
accessible. You've helped me even buy my own property. So I appreciate that. And
Absolutely.
you are my guy here on out. I hope you know that. So
Appreciate you. I appreciate you.
all right, so we're gonna get in it. For those who are on and those who are joining, I hope this is why you're here. You know,
You found the right
if you're
room.
not, yeah, if you're not, just hang around. You might
Yeah.
learn something that you enjoy.
That's
So
it.
what we'll kind of talk through today is the wealth equation. This is something I wanted to throw out there with you to see what you thought
Yeah.
about it, and then just how you might even bring it to your clients, those early investors, long-time
Yeah.
investors, financing fundamentals for those that are just getting into it, and then, how do we really leverage for growth?
Okay.
So, just a bit that I know about it, just with the investments that I've done, is, you build real estate wealth in four ways. There's appreciation, loan pay down,
Mm-hmm.
leverage, and cash flow, right?
That's it.
And all have their purposes. So I'm going to introduce ourselves and then we're going to get into all the questions. So
Okay.
I'm Michelle Wade. Hey, what's going on? I am a business leader and engineer by school and by profession previously, an educator, and with nearly 20 years of consulting experience in business development and a passion for making a meaningful impact in work environments, in the community, wherever I have the opportunity to engage. My engineering and business background helps me analyze opportunities, make important decisions, and really negotiate effectively for my clients. Beyond my professional experience, I've managed, bought, sold single, multifamily properties for my clients and my family's ventures across 3 states and 2 countries, giving me hands on insight into market trends, investments, and property management. Community and connection drive my work and they drive me. From volunteering with the Rotary Club to serving on nonprofit boards, I believe in strengthening neighborhoods and building trust. My approach centers around integrity, exceptional service, and lasting relationships, really helping clients, reach their real estate goals with confidence. All right. And then on to the wonderful and amazing Hunter, who, it's not on here, but in addition to all the things that he is and does, he's simply great to work with. Um,
Thank you.
so Hunter grew up right in Durham and attended Wake Forest. All right, Roseville High School, let's go. I'm not from North Carolina, but I feel like I should like be like, woo woo, Roseville.
Yeah. Claim Durham more than anything. That's home. Bull City.
Right, Bull City. And you've lived in most, where else have you lived?
I have lived in Tennessee a couple of times, both times in
Awesome.
Nashville. I've lived in Kentucky. I've lived in Texas. So anywhere where my accent would pretty much fit in and I wouldn't be
Just
looked at
like
weird.
blend right in.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
kind of where we kind of centralize ourselves. But North Carolina's home. I've been here for over 20 years at this point, and most of the time has actually been in Wake Forest. So I moved to
Oh, that's
Wake Forest
awesome.
the year that they cleared the trees for Walmart, and Walmart was the first big thing for Wake
That
Forest,
was
and
the
that
anchor.
was it. And so it was great, and we thought we were big stuff. And now you don't even have to leave Wake Forest, and I'm still there. I love it. I'm,
Oh, that's
I'm
so
raising a
funny.
family there. I've got a little girl and a little boy that goes to school there, and it's home. So yeah,
Awesome. And I feel like that just says a lot about you and a lot about your knowledge of this community and just you always come back and your
yeah,
unwillingness to live anywhere with any regular snow. So
absolutely. We're not doing that.
I got it. So you have a beautiful family, beautiful wife,
Yeah,
and also you love taking trips along the coast, which is great to hear, and the outdoors. Let's go,
I do.
Hunter.
I do. We love it. We love a vacation. It is nothing for us to be at the beach on during the summer on a weekend. I've got my laptop cracked open, hotspot running, sending a prequel letter from the sand, and
Hmm.
we love
I
to do
love
it.
it. I
That's it.
love it.
It's the vibe. It's the vibe. But yeah, so I've been with Sherry on a team for almost 5 years now. Been a lender for longer than that, but Sherry on a team has been in this market for 25 years at this point. I've moved up from just a loan officer assistant when I first joined the team. Now I'm a director of sales for the team, so I lead the team with sales, and that kind of comes into play when we talk to clients about the market. And we
Hmm.
kind of get into that a little bit later on, but just what market advice we can give, what kind of guidance we can give, especially depending on what's right for every client. Not every person buying is going to have a property they're going to hold for 30 years. So, we need to be able to have a conversation for where the buyer is at and whether that's a 3 to 5 year hold because they're a first time home buyer and statistically
Hmm.
that's what they live in their first home for, or if this is your 20th investment property and, you kind of understand break even points a little bit more at this point. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome, Susan. Thanks for joining our call today. Um, so next up, I wanted to talk about the wealth equation, right?
Yeah.
You have appreciation, loan pay down, leverage, and cash flow, and that really drives long-term wealth. So what I know about it in simple terms, not, finance and mortgage expert terms as you are, is, really that cash flow really helps with stability, right? Over
Yeah,
time,
absolutely.
keeping the lights on, making sure the bills are paid. And then you have your loan pay down really is coming from the rents. So if you're collecting
Yep.
rents on that property, you're going to continue to drive down that loan and you're going to build more equity within that
That's right.
space. On top of that, you also have appreciation,
That's
right? You have
correct.
appreciation over time. And then there's the leverage component. So you can buy more with less, right?
Hmm.
Which I hope we talk more and more about. And all of that kind of drives that long-term wealth. So
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that? Like what are those keys to really driving that long-term wealth?
Absolutely. So really just a lot of people think of the property as, as a debt. They don't understand that what they're holding on to is an asset. And assets can be leveraged and taken advantage of for better terms on a different loan, or maybe not even doing a new loan, but just accessing that property. I think, when you look at appreciation and loan pay down, a lot of people kind of come into a property, especially if it's a first time investor. And even if they've owned their own home, that's not
Mm-hmm.
something they've actually realized, but loan pay down is automatic. They understand they're paying down their loan every time. There's 30 years and on most loans to pay that down, but the appreciation works in the same way. So a lot of times they don't understand, especially our first time investors, they don't understand how much leverage they have in their current property, whether they can access that through a HELOC or do a refinance even on their primary residence to get that money at a cheaper expense. Primary rates are lower than investment rates most of the time, in most cases. But getting that money at a cheaper cost to them and using that more effectively. We have a file right now where the client's buying a new primary, moving out of his old primary. And what we found was he could access the money in his old primary residence, take out cash on top of that, rent that and break even or make a little bit month to month. So cash flowing instantly. And
Nice.
his monthly payment on his primary residence went down so much that if you looked at just from A to B, he's saving about $450 a month by that plan. And that's even considering a higher interest rate on investment property. It's considering all the factors of that. But if he can rent that property for what he knows he can, he's saving essentially a car payment every single month and he's cash flowing it at the same time.
And now he has an additional investment.
And now he has an extra home. This is actually
It's a
his.
no-brainer.
He didn't go into the transaction thinking that it would happen. It was something I brought up to him. He had a longer close, and so he's thinking, well, this is
Hmm.
what I'll do is I'll just sell it, and I've got time to sell it. And he was non-contingent already, but I brought it up to him 2 weeks into the deal. I'm like, have you considered renting that property out and seeing if
Hmm.
dollars would make sense? So he did a little bit of research, spoke to some of his neighbors that he knew were renting, got an idea of what rent was going for in his building. It's a condo in Raleigh, and realized that, hey, I'm actually saving money if I hold on to this property,
That's awesome.
while allowing the appreciation to continue, make more money on it later on if he wants to sell it then, or he can just start his investment portfolio. He was super relieved that we brought it up because he was thinking, well, this my purchase went under contract quickly, maybe mine will too. He just didn't find that in the area that he's moving away from, but he found that
And now he doesn't have to feel that pressure.
He does not. He's got a lower monthly payment on his primary
Hmm.
residence that he feels much more comfortable with. He's got a cash flowing investment property from the very first month. Um, we're keeping our fingers crossed, but he thinks he's already found a renter, which would immediately allow him to start making money on his old primary residence where he thought he was just going to have to sell it and be done with it.
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit where people are looking for that next home or they're looking for that property and they're like, okay, I'm going to sell the property that I'm in. It's like maybe consider renting, right? Um,
Absolutely.
if you have that equity in the house, you can tap into that and you can have that cash flow. People are surprised at what rents are going for these days, especially if they have a property where they had a low interest rate to begin with,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So definitely take advantage of that opportunity. And that's another thing I appreciate about you, your creative ideas and not just taking stuff for face value, right?
We try to. We really do. I think, there's a reason that your referral partner sent you to send their client to you, and it's because you're
Hmm.
not just going to look at the application as it sits, but you're going to work to restructure and see if there's a way to get it done if it doesn't appear to be up front. That's something we really preach on the team is, if it's not now, what's their next step? We don't
Right.
say just no. We have to determine where that client is, whether it's buying a first investment property and hey, this is where you're at right now. You can't get it tradition and through traditional methods. We have non-traditional as well, so we can explore those. But if you really want a traditional investment property loan, this is your first step. And we kind of equate it to driving down the road. Whether you're starting at this point in the road or this point in the road, you're still driving down the road. There's just more steps to get to here where you're getting approved to get that purchase.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So now I have quite a few questions. I don't know how many we'll actually get to.
Okay.
Um, and if anybody else wanted to drop any questions in the chat, please feel free to. Um, but I'll just get going with us here. So first things first, getting positioned right out the gate. I wanted to just let people know this session is not about rates, it's about strategy. It's about how
Yes.
can I build wealth? How could I really drive that forward? Instead of just looking like our rates right to buy now. It's like that shouldn't be all we're thinking about. All right.
Yeah.
So what actually determines buying power?
Yeah, so when you apply, we're going to look at a few factors. We're going to look at your debt to income ratios. We're going to
Hmm.
look at your down payment. We're going to look at your credit score. And we're also going to look at the one piece that a lot of people forget is reserves. That's money that you're not using for the purchase to show an investor you have the ability to make a payment if that investment property doesn't have a renter immediately, or if there's a gap between renters. Do you have that? That significantly strengthens the file, and you don't hear that talking about it enough. Which is why, when someone applies, I tell them, send me everything you've got, any 401k that you have that you're willing to
Hmm.
share, any IRAs, because those can be looked at as reserves and provide you better terms if you have that. So a lot of people just want to say, "Hey, this is where my savings account is. This is where my cash to close is coming from." That's appreciated. I will need to see that. But do you have anything else to provide, like a 401k that, hey, you just kind of put it in with your employer every month? You don't think about it. That can go to benefit and strengthen the file. So those are the key things there that you kind of look at when you're determining a buying power is credit score, debt to income ratio, reserves, and down payment.
Nice.
Yeah.
So next one, if someone is looking to buy in 6 to 12 months, what should they be doing right
So I truly appreciate a buyer that reaches out a year before they're ready, because sometimes things come up in conversation that they don't realize is going to negatively affect them or positively affect them, and I want to encourage them to
now?
keep doing that. I think at minimum 6 months, having a conversation with a lender and just kind of understanding where the market is now. I think 12 months is great if you can have a conversation with a real estate agent and a lender because that allows them to start preparing ahead of time. A lot of people
Hmm.
think, well, I want to move in the next 60 days. Let me talk to somebody now. That's great. And that can be a path that you take. But if you have someone advocating and working for you 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the line, they can keep you aware of what's happening in the market. They can keep you aware of where interest rates are at, what properties are going for in certain neighborhoods that are ideal for you. And it allows just a much smoother and I think much more educated purchasing process. I feel like those clients really from their personal standpoint, a much smoother transaction because they've been having this conversation for a long time.
I love that. And just recently, I just started to hear more and more people talk about and experts talk about that there has been a shift. This is, it was the seller's market. It was a firm seller's market for quite a while in this area. Then it got kind of neutral, and now it's shifted into a buyer's market. So buyers really have more purchasing power, and just buyers are better positioned to come to the
Yeah,
table now than they were 12 months ago.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. What are the biggest myths about mortgage approval?
Mortgage approval, even from a investor standpoint, biggest myth is one, that you need to qualify based on your income, and two, that you have to have 20% down.
Hmm.
I see a ton of people coming in saying, "Hey, I've got 15, 17%.
It's
I
like,
want
that's
to,
enough.
yeah, we're good. We're half
We're good.
up. Yeah, that's we have.
FHA, you just need 3.5, right?
I'm telling you. I mean, from a primary standpoint, 3% for a conventional for a first time, 3.5 for a FHA. But from an investor standpoint, you don't even need 20% anymore. We're seeing more and more investors show up with 15% interest rates that are very competitive to what you used to see at a 20% down structure, even as recently as a year ago. So there's a lot more access to loans at this point, I feel like, from a lower cash perspective than there has been in the past. And that's just reflective of the market. As more people, kind of get further and further away from COVID, more and more people get away from even 2008. We still have rules from 2008 that affect us daily. As people get more and more away from that, I think you're starting to see more investors get a little more flexible.
That's
So
awesome.
debt to income ratios, we don't need to use your income to qualify. We can actually use the income that the property is expected to make to qualify for that loan. It's called a DSCR loan. It's one of my favorite conversations right now, because it is changing the game for first-time investors. It's just been recently opened up to first-time investors, and I mean, people are breaking even on what their rent expected is versus their monthly payment, and then uh, so de- and then 20% down for investors.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. And me for instance, I have family members that are like, I don't think I'll ever be able to buy it. Like my credit score, I'll never be able to get it to where it needs to be. So how important is a credit score, income, savings? How important are those things?
Yeah, so for credit score, it can be very important. However, a lot of people will go to their local bank and
Hmm.
apply for a mortgage and get turned down, and they just think that's the end. What I used to work in a local bank, and we had a minimum credit score of 660, and we turned
And
down a
that's tough
lot.
for people. Yeah, that could
It
be tough
is
for people. Hmm.
absolutely, and especially if you experience some type of like life event 2 or 3 years ago, and you're clawing your way out of that, and you want
Hmm.
to start building equity in your home, and you want to stop paying 100% on your interest rate for your rent because that's exactly what it is. Rent is 100% interest every single month. If you
I
want
love the way you say that. Like, if that's what you want to do,
that's,
go
but
ahead.
truly, I mean, you're gaining nothing from it. It's
Hmm.
just the cost of living there, which is exactly what the interest rate is for that mortgage. It's the cost of owning that home.
Hmm.
So, if you can get into even the upper fives, I mean, 500 credit scores, 580, FHA gets a lot smoother. You can go down to 540 if you have enough down payment. You can get a conventional loan as low as 620 now. So a lot of people get really discouraged because they go just to their bank because that's where their savings account is, that's where their checking account is, that's where they just assume that's where they need to go to get a mortgage. And a lot of people renew that rent for another year, not knowing that they could have owned a home that entire time and been building personal wealth through appreciation and paying down their mortgage.
Nice. Thank you so much. All right,
Yeah.
man, you got me wanting to go get a loan right now
Hey,
for something.
income is another one. There's a lot of different methods that you can qualify now. We have more investors coming out with asset depletion. That's where you use the amount of assets you hold, especially for a retiree who's living on a fixed income, but maybe they've spent their entire life savings and have or life saving up in a retirement account. You can use the money in that account without accessing it, just showing the investor, I've got this much money and I can draw from it if I need to make this payment, they can use that to qualify. Don't ever need to access the money at all. Don't need to set up a draw or anything like that. There are methods for that as well, but we're seeing a lot of investors just saying, "Hey, show us the assets that show you can make this payment." And
I
then
love it.
savings is right there. It kind of goes back to reserves earlier. Having money set aside that you're not using for the transaction. If you can have it, show it. Showing the asset depletion portion of it. Hey, look, yes, I'm on a very fixed income, Social Security and a small retirement check. However, I have my life's work of saving up in an IRA or in a
Hmm.
401k or something that I'm pulling from and can pull from if I need to. Investors are approving off of those features now.
Awesome. All right, so let's shift a little bit from getting qualified to building and
Okay.
leveraging for growth. So, so when does putting down less make strategic sense,
Yeah.
right?
So I have this conversation a lot with someone who is looking to pull money out of stocks or investment accounts. This conversation comes into play because they think, well, I need to put more down to lower my monthly payment. That's a very true statement. However, if your return on those accounts is 10 to 15%, you're making so much more money holding that money where it's at than it would be benefiting your monthly payment if you put down another 5 or 10%. Don't short yourself on the compounding interest growth of an account just because you want a smaller monthly payment. It's not really looking at the full picture here. Yes, it does provide that monthly payment, and I understand that I can have this conversation from the perspective of I'm not making the payment. And so I make sure that client knows I understand I'm not making this monthly payment every month. You have to feel comfortable with it, but understand what you're doing from a financial perspective. If you're losing 10 to 15% returns for a 6% interest rate, there's a huge gap that you're missing of money that is going to continue to grow in a
Hmm.
compounding account. So that does make sense for putting less down. Also, it may make sense if you have better terms provided at 20% down than 25% down because you have a certain amount of reserves in that account. Yes, 25% down looks a little bit better, but is your approval going to be smoother? Is your loan process going to be a smoother process? Are your terms going to be better because instead of dumping everything into that account, you are now holding some back in case that monthly payment needs to be made from a gap in renters or something like that. I think those are really important facts or points to share when someone's talking about how much money should I put down.
Nice. No, I appreciate that. And time is flying by. So I'm gonna pop around a little
Okay.
bit. The question of the day, is waiting for lower rates usually a wealth building move, right?
Yeah, it is not, and the reason why is because the price you pay for that home today is not going to be the price you pay for that home in a year. If you're in an appreciating market, especially like our market, Michelle, especially like our market,
Yeah.
you may be paying 30, $40,000 more for that home just a year from now than you would if you did today. Now, that year, that 30 to $40,000 could have been appreciation that you experienced if you own that home in that year. But because you wanted to wait for a 0.5% lower, which may be dropping your payment $100, $1,200 savings over the year, that $1,200 savings is now costing you an extra $30,000 in loan.
Hmm.
That is bad math from anyone's perspective. Um, I think people forget that a mortgage is not a one-time process. Refinanceability of that mortgage, taking advantage when you refinance of the appreciated growth and getting even better terms just because you sat on that for a year and now it's worth 30 $40,000 more. Now you're not looking at 20% down or 20% loan to value. You're looking at a 25% equity position and your terms are now better because you've crossed over
Hmm.
that 25% mark. Just allowing the home to work for you and not working so hard for the home is, I think, the smartest decision.
I love that. A great example of that for me is we bought our house a little over a year and a half ago, and it's gone up in value by $140,000.
Exactly right.
Imagine if we would have waited, right?
That's exactly right.
Which, which also, starts to touch on to housing affordability in
Yes.
the triangle,
Yes.
and the need for more homes that are affordable. But let me stick on topic. All right. So the next, oh, I don't know if it's about to, oh, we have about 10 minutes left. How can someone use equity to grow into another property? You touched on that before. Are there more examples that you can share on that?
Yeah, so loan types like home equity lines of credit, HE loans.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of a home equity line of credit where you have a, a loan structure that you can pull from multiple times, a HE loan's a one-time pull that allows you to keep, especially for those COVID buyers, that 3%, 3.5%, 2% interest rate allows you to access equity in your home to purchase another property. Those have been extremely popular, especially as we're having people, we're seeing a lot of it, honestly, in renovations. Hey, let me take out this equity. Let me renovate this property. I'm going to pay this the loan off in 10, 20 years. I'll still get to hold on to my 3%. And it's all about, the blended rate. What's the rate for the home equity line or the HE loan versus the rate for the primary residence?
Mm-hmm.
If loan is better than a true just cash out. Do that every day.
Awesome. Just give me some money. All right. So what is one financing strategy more people should understand that you feel like people just simply don't understand?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this a little bit. Um, for investors, everyone who's considering getting their first investment property should look at a DSCR loan. Look at
Yeah.
what the property can do for you. Let's see what the terms make sense for you. Do you have to? It can go straight into an LLC with a DSCR loan, which is called it's a debt service coverage ratio loan. You don't have to supply your income documents. You don't have to supply, your pay stubs and all those things because it's all based on that rent schedule from the appraisal.
Hmm.
It's a huge benefit to someone who has 20 properties and they're looking for another property and they don't want to have to go through and collect all those documents for every single one, all the tax returns and all those things. I see a lot of experienced investors jumping on that program just because it's a smoother document required file.
Awesome. Yeah, I did my first one last year.
Well, there you
So with you. Thank you very much.
go.
All right.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to make sure that questions were opened up. If anyone had any questions, before we kind of get to what are those key points that we talked about today, I don't want to lose sight of that. I feel like just drop it in the chat. Um, or maybe we'll touch on it in just a second. But what I wanted to say was a big, massive thank you, Hunter, for spending this time for this talk, for all the information you just shared. I will send this out so that you have it for your social media
Thank
records.
you. Appreciate it.
Also, I just wanted to reinforce that financing is a lever, right? Building should be intentional, right? There's an opportunity once you have that property, once you have that home, that you can tap into that in order to build more in the future. Preparation expands your opportunity, and having a great team on your side can take you many places. All right. Every lender is not the same. Just want to throw that out there. All right. Every real estate agent isn't as well. Just throwing that back to myself.
I will throw
Um,
that out there as well.
Thank you so much. All right. So, with that, I just wanted to say thank you. I didn't want to go too much, but if there's any final note you wanted to leave everyone with, what would it be?
Um, I think the biggest thing I would leave everyone with is it doesn't do anything to your credit to have a conversation. I think a conversation is the most important thing to start the loan process with. A lot of people want to go straight to an application link and go apply, but allowing a conversation with a lender who is educated in what they're doing, is knowledgeable, has different programs for you, allows you a bit more comfort going forward. And I'm really big on making sure that the client feels comfortable throughout every step of the
Mhm.
process. So having a conversation first before ever completing an application can a lot of times solve a lot of concerns or address a lot of concerns and solve a lot of problems that you may see come up after you've already applied. I think, just having a conversation is most important. And honestly, I feel like that is on the real estate agent side as well. Just having a conversation, allowing you to
Yeah,
impart
let's
your
just talk through
knowledge.
it.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
having given them a moment of education. But what
Yeah.
about you?
I've
What's yours?
I've had no, I've had similar conversation with people that just think they can rent. right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they're like, well, let's see some property so I can rent something. And I'm like, have you thought about purchasing? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're working on their first mortgage. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they never thought about it. That just excites me because they never thought that they can kind of own their piece of space. So
Yep.
we want to use what we can in terms of leverage. And, a happy client is a better community. So
That's
that's
exactly
what I'm
right.
all about. All right, so I'm going to stop recording right now. And now you can say all of the